So thank you so much for joining us tonight, guys, for our Honors Global Communities information session. My name is Chantel Smith. I'm the coordinator for recruitment and programming here in the Honors College. I'm joined tonight by Honors Global Communities Director, Dr. Sarah Croco, Associate Director, Ms. Natalie Vinsky Ibrahim, and the Program Manager, Ms. Giovanni McLaurin. We're also joined by some current students and also the Associate Director for Admissions and Recruitment, Dr. Jenny Lane. So for the remaining of the chat until, unless otherwise instructed, please keep yourself on mute. And this is being recorded. It will be posted on our website by early next week if you want to go back to review any information. So we'll go over a quick presentation and then we'll open it up to Q&A. And you guys can, at the end of the presentation, you guys can start putting those questions into the chat. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn over the mic over so you can learn more about global Honors Global Communities.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll get started with the presentation. Whoop, I think it's been disabled. Just let me know when it gets authorized. Oh, I'm still not able to share. Well, while that's happening, I can just introduce myself. I'm Dr. Croco. I am the Director of Honors Global Communities. Love my job. Happy to be here. Teaching undergrads is one of my favorite things about being a professor. It's why I became a professor. And so when the opportunity came to direct a living learning program in the Honors College, I jumped at it because I knew it would be a total blast. Just trying to I'm not sure what's going on with the screen share. I'm still not able to share. I don't know. Natalie, are you able to?
I can share my screen and then you just let me know when you need to click over.
Okay. Oh, do you have do you want me to send you the slides?
I have it.
Oh, you already have it? Okay, cool. Okay, go ahead. That's fine.
All right.
Okay, so next slide. Okay, so what is Honors Global Communities? What is our kind of bumper sticker takeaway message? We are encouraging students to think about global issues, contemporary global affairs. So things like, what are demographic transitions like? What is happening to democracy worldwide? How are we handling population growth? How are we handling ongoing pandemics? Things like that. While at the same time arming them and giving them the tool set of data science, right? So when you come into this program, right, we want people who are interested in international affairs, but who are also interested in solving global issues and addressing global problems. And we really, our mission is to give you the tools to become more more informed consumers of data, people who know how to use data to help address issues and problems, and to have a lot of fun. We also really encourage students to work with we have a kind of a partnership, which I'll get into later, with a program called Global Fellows that provides a great early on-ramp into the internship process. And we also encourage students to do study abroad. So really, if you're interested in any kind of international affairs, be that politics, global health, any kind of global science, anything like that, I think we might be the LLP for you. Okay, next slide. All right, so this is our team. So like I said, I am the director, and Miss Natalie and Miss Giovanni are absolutely essential parts of my team. I could not do this without them. And we have our offices on the ground floor of Dorchester Hall, and we are kind of in charge of the program. I really like where our offices are located. We get to interact with students a lot. It's a really warm, friendly atmosphere, and I think we just bring a wealth of experience to the program. Next slide. So who are we? What kinds of things do we do? What's the program like? This is just a general kind of overview. In terms of the people who make up global communities from a student perspective, we have a whole bunch of majors represented. Actually, we can probably go to the next slide here. I think, yes. We have about 75 students in each cohort. So we're one of the smaller LLPs. we represent a huge variety of colleges and majors. For instance, I was looking through the roster the other day. I noticed we have quite a few aerospace engineers, which I always think of as a small major, but we have a lot of them in this particular cohort. A lot of computer science, a lot of journalism, humanities majors, government and politics majors. And I wanted to stress that even though my home department is in government and politics, it is not an LLP that is limited to government and politics majors by any stretch. I think there are quite a few, what we say would be GVPT majors, but that's not by any means even a plurality. We really do have a wide variety of majors represented. In terms of in-state, out-of-state, about 75% are in-state, 25% out-of-state. And we have many students who have connections around the world, be it family connections or places where they've lived, maybe done some kind of schooling abroad. And we really value that. We think that's a really important part of our community. Next. So this is Dorchester Hall, which we affectionately refer to as Dorch. And this is where nearly every first year student will live, and a lot of second year students will live as well. It is, I don't mind tooting our own horn here, one of, yes, as Ms. Giovanni said, the best dorm to be in. You can't really see it here, but like if we were to just kind of go right over here in this picture, that's where the library would be. So it is in central campus, close to everything. And I love it. It's adorable. It's a cute little dorm, right? Gets the job done and is really nice. You really cannot beat the location. Next. So what does this program look like? It is 16 credits, so it's very similar to other honors programs. In the first year, with me, you'll take HGLO 101, which is called, my title for it is Saving the World with Data. And I'll get more into what this class is about on the next slide. You'll also take HGLO 100, which is the Introduction to Global Communities and the University. So a lot of LLPs have this kind of class that kind of serves as a gateway class to kind of help students transfer to that first year of college. It can be kind of a big transition for people. And that's what that class really helps with. And then in the spring term, also with me, barring any kind of weird scheduling over in government and politics, you'll be taking a statistics class, and I'm going to get into that in a second, but a statistics class with me that will help you build your data science toolkit even more, right? So in the first class in Saving the World with Data, that's where I introduce you to this new programming language called R. And then in GVPT 201, that's where you'll really sharpen these skills into something that you can put on a resume, right, and help to get an internship down the line. Next slide, please. So these are the books that we read in HGLO 101. This has been one of my favorite classes to teach. I just designed it last summer as we made the move into the Honors College. And the whole class, to me, like when I describe it to other people, like other faculty, it's really, I say it's reading really awesome books that people love to talk about. And so we start with Factfulness, which is a book that I think just rocked so many students' worldviews. I had them write weekly reflections, and they said that this book just really fundamentally changed the way they thought about the world for the better. Right now, they said they read this book and they were less depressed about how the future looked to them. 8 Billion and Counting. This book shocked me by how interesting it was. I never thought I would love a book about demography, but this book proved me wrong. It was a great book, all about so many different elements of population, both boom and bust, that affect our world that I never would have thought of before. And so it really spoke to my political scientist heart, but I think a lot of students, even who weren't political scientists, found it interesting as well. For How to Save the World for Just $1 Trillion, this book kind of takes on that idea of like, well, what if we had unlimited resources? What could we do differently? How could we, like, what problems could we actually address? And so this really awesome science writer wrote a chapter about all kinds of global problems, everything very, a wide array of climate change issues, meat consumption, AI, robots on Mars, all kinds of things. And he said, what could you do with $1 trillion? He went to talk to all these experts, found out what you could do. And then we actually got to talk to this author via Zoom, and that was really fun. The End of the World is Just the Beginning is what I say is like one of the best, what I call airport political science books, in that it's meant for, all these books are meant for a mass audience, but this book is really about what does the end of globalization mean? Why is the United States different in so many ways? And what does our future, the US future, look like in this world that is changing so rapidly, but not towards a system that we've maybe seen before? And what are the consequences of that? And then finally, we end on kind of a depressing note, but I think an interesting one. And students also just loved this book because it was about a time that they can remember, that they recently lived through. And it talks about kind of the recent, kind of, well, not really recent because it's been decades in the making, but this kind of concerning backslide in democracy that we've seen not only in the United States, but around the world. And so these 5 books together made for such interesting class conversations. The students very quickly convinced me that we should spend more time in lecture just having discussions about these books, because they were so into it after they would do these weekly reflections. They wanted to talk about these issues, and it was so much fun. Next slide, please. So what is this whole programming thing I've been alluding to? There is this wonderful program, open source, totally free, called R. And once you open that door to R, it's just this amazing wonderland of things you can do. R programming skills is one of the most valuable things you can have on your resume right now. Knowing how to program in R makes it easier for you to learn how to program in Python. And this is coming from me, someone who did not take a single math class in college and thought she was getting away with like the biggest scam ever. Now I am such kind of like, I don't know how to say it, a proponent of learning how to code. I've just seen it open so many doors for students. And I say to my students at the start of every term, whether I'm teaching the stats class or HGLO 101, this is the biggest gift I can give to students, is teaching them how to code. Even if you're going to be a criminology major, if you're going to be a journalism major, if you're going to be government politics, engineer, it does not matter. This is a useful skill set. So this first year we use this R graphics cookbook, which is free. But next semester I'm going to move to this data visualization book, which is also free online. And this class basically helps get your feet wet with R, and so that you can learn how to do the fun part, right, which is make pretty graphs. So next slide. So these are just some of the graphs that the students made in their first semester. I thought these were pretty fun. As you can see, some of them really took the class and just ran with it. And they said, I wanted to do animated graphs. I want to make all these cool graphs. And they did. So this is just one slide, and then we can see the next slide. So here's just some more, and this is what they were doing in their part of their kind of periodic coding homework. So the class consists of weekly reflections. They had to do a weekly meme where they had to make up a meme that kind of demonstrated that they had understood or a takeaway point they had from the readings. And then there were about maybe 8 coding assignments, and they got really good by the end of the term, and they were making these really cool graphs. The final assignment was a book trailer where they had to make a short video about kind of pitching what book of the 5 was their favorite. And some students had really had fun with that. And I think during this next couple of weeks, some of those are going to be in the honors online account. So that'll be fun too. Okay, next slide. For the second year, what we really encourage people to do is to look into this Global Fellows track. So Global Fellows, Global and Federal Fellows, is a program on campus that has this amazing network of all these different agencies, places downtown, right, in the government, NGOs, places like that, where they can place students in really top-level internships. People have been at the White House, the State Department, EPA, all kinds of places. Again, it does not matter what your major is. You do not have to be a government and politics major. You can be any major. Engineers get placed all the time. Well, somebody was placed at NASA, somebody at the Goddard Flight Center. Like, they can really have, they have this extensive network of places they can put you. So if you go to the Global Fellows track, in the fall of your second year, you'll be taking coursework with them. And in the spring is when you could do your internship. This would be a huge foot in the door to get your internship process started as a sophomore, because a lot of people wait until their junior or senior year, and then they don't have as much time to take on maybe a different or a wider variety of internships or to get more experience with that internship. You can also, if that just doesn't work with your schedule for whatever reason, you can do the internship in later years or later semesters as well. You can even possibly do it over the summer, right? So it's not that second semester of the second year isn't set in stone, but that's what you need. You need, once you fulfill that, then you will have fulfilled your accreditation requirements for us. But we're flexible with the precise timing on that part of it. The academic track, HGLO 208, is a class that kind of gears students up if they want to delve more into the research side of R. So if they want to become better, not only consumers, but creators of data management, like how, building their own data sets to answer their own research questions, how to scrape data from Twitter, how to scrape data from different news sources, right? That's what that class is going to be doing. And then HGLO 209 would be kind of a capstone class that they could do in that spring term, right? Maybe that's doing, starting their honors thesis project with their home department, whatever it might be. Or you could use that time to do study abroad. Now, I want to stress that if you're really interested in both Global Fellows and study abroad, it's totally possible to do both. We encourage that, right? We are all big proponents of study abroad. So if you really set on doing that, that doesn't mean that Global Fellows is out of reach. And then finally, students in both tracks will take an additional 3-credit course from an approved list of courses that's either about data science, of which there are many on UMD's campus, or just about some global issue in general. And students have not had any problem finding classes to fill this. Next slide. So what can you do after HGLO? So in addition to all the cool different majors that are represented in HGLO, if you really get hooked on this data science thing, you could go for what we call a 4+1 program, which is where you do 4 years of undergrad. And then with just 1 extra year, you have a master's, right, in this applied political analytics. And so we have, this program is already out and fully rolling. They are placing people in campaigns, NGOs, think tanks, right? They're basically giving people even more, teched out data science skills to help them answer questions that all different kinds of agencies, political campaigns, news organizations need help answering. We also, in my home, kind of college, the behavior and social science, we've just launched this new social data science major. Being in HGLO your first 2 years will set you up very nicely if you wanted to do that major, because you would have all this programming experience in your first 2 years. You also, if you like the global side of things and looking at more world problems, we have a minor in international development and conflict management that, again, HGLO would set you up very nicely for if you wanted to transition to that in your final 2 years at Maryland. So really the sky's the limit. Once you have these data science skills, it really is. I mean, I save emails now from former students. They'll email me years after and be like, oh my gosh, I just got this awesome job because I told them I know R. And that just warms my heart. I love, love, love those emails. Next slide. So we also do fun stuff. We go on field trips. We have this amazing event called the Amazing Race at the beginning of the fall semester, which is really kind of like a getting to know you activity. If students haven't explored the DC Metro or been downtown DC, this is a great intro to that. And it's just really a community building event. And we also have a lot of guest speakers, right? So we had actually, in addition to the Zoom speaker for the How to Save the World, we had the 8 Billion and Counting author come visit us. This semester, we have somebody named Elliot Morris, who's like a polling expert, coming to talk to our students. So we have a lot of speakers, a lot of events, a lot of student-led events, things like Cultural Explosion, where different cultural dances, poetry, things like that are, kind of put on a display for everyone to enjoy. So we really have fun. Next slide. So here is the ground floor of Dorchester. So you can see here, this is where we have maybe the student potluck, or where we'd have a guest speaker come. So we have a nice little cozy space for everyone to hang out. Next slide. So if you have any questions, I see there's a lot in the chat. I'm happy to get to those. And I want definitely to include our student ambassadors because they are all awesome. But you can drop us a line at hgc@umd.edu. Thanks so much. Looking forward to taking your questions.
So Dr. Kroko, I've been kind of keeping track of some of the questions that me and Natalie couldn't get to quick enough.
Okay.
So For students that already have programming experience, who already know programming, is there other things that they can do, or would this program be challenging enough if they already have that background?
Oh, I'm happy to make it challenging for them. That would be music to my ears. If they come in and they're like, I can already do all these graphs in R, that's nothing. I'll be like, oh, okay, then you and I can start working on web scraping. You and I can start working on building regression models. I know a lot of different ways that we can take that. So I would welcome that. I think that would be so much fun. Because I learn so much about R from students. That's the beautiful thing about R, is that I can teach you the basics and the students will go off in all different directions and learn their own cool thing and then come back and teach me. So I would welcome students who already have R programming experience.
Alrighty. There was a question about as a business student, would they have to take a business stats class in addition to the global stats class, or only the business one?
That's up to the B school. So that is a issue on campus that gets resolved kind of on a case-by-case basis, where there's a lot of departments offer a lot of different stats classes. Like stats has their own, econ has their own, government politics has their own. Sometimes courses from a different major will accept stats classes from another one and say, yeah, we all cover everything through logistic regression, so that's fine, right, we'll take your course. That's something you can bring up with the B school. I'm happy to lobby on behalf of Government Politics 201. I co-created that course. I teach it every year, right? I know exactly what's included in it. If you would want to, if you provided me a syllabus from the B schools class, I could say, here's where we're the same, here's where we have overlap, here's where we're different. I'm happy to help make the case for that. I'm not guaranteeing what the B school would say, but I'm happy to lobby on behalf of a student who would want to do that. Okay. We're just looking through the chat now.
Yeah, I was gonna say questions are coming in rapid fire, so feel free to jump in on any that you see.
Okay. Are there students who choose to commute? We did have a few commuter students last year. I'd say less than 5, but they fit right in and did everything with everybody else. They didn't stand out or anything like that. What are the kids? Okay, we already did that one. Are there internships during the school year or in the summer? I believe they are both, and that you can get credit regardless of when you do it. But that's a better question for Global Fellows, which if you want to drop me an email, I'm happy to follow up on that. Does the internship need to be focused in a certain area, or can we? No, you can do an internship in whatever you want. I mean, they have this huge Rolodex. If everybody knows what a Rolodex is, they have this huge network of agencies that they can tap into to get people placed in different internships. So it's not like you go there and they're like, okay, you're going to the State Department. If you don't want to go there, right, they want to place you in a internship that fits with your major and your interest. And they have a wide variety of things. Agencies involved in Global Fellows, I think, Ms. Giovanni must have dropped the website. They, I think, have a list there or a sampling of the various agencies that they have contacts with. Is there also flexibility when you complete study abroad? Absolutely. You can do study abroad during the year. You can do it during the summer. That's when I, in particular, did my study abroad. Lots of flexibility with that. Do any of the classes count for Gen Ed requirements? Yes, I know for a fact that HGLO 101 counts, and I believe Government and Politics 201 counts for the quantitative and social science reasoning or something like that. So yes, they do count towards the Gen Eds. Do students who are interested in both tracks have to take all the course requirements? There are creative ways around that. So what I would recommend people do, I think the Global Fellows is a really good thing to jump on in your second year, because then you get that internship process started. And I cannot tell you how many times seniors have come to me, as in a government and politics setting, and been like, how do I get an internship? I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that either, right? I know how to become a political science professor. I don't know how to get a job that's not that. And so it's really better if you start that internship process as soon as possible, because that's what gets your foot in the door once you graduate. So if you wanted to do both tracks, like if both of those sounded appealing, go do the Global Fellows thing. And there are plenty of ways for you to learn R and to kind of get that same course experience or the knowledge that you would get out of those courses outside of the HGLO framework. Like there are so many really cool data science classes at UMD that I could point you to where you could get that. So you wouldn't have to like kind of double stack the classes. I would say go to Global Fellows and learn R on a more flexible timeline. And that way you get the best of both worlds. If you aren't as interested in programming, but they're intending to go into international relations, would you still recommend this program? I would, because I think I am a global person at heart, right? My PhD is in political science, but my focus was international conflict. I love international affairs. That is my bread and butter. And that's what all the books are. And none of the books that we read are very data technically tech at all, right? The programming is a big part of it because I am a firm believer that that's a really valuable skill regardless of your major. So you might say, okay, fine, I'll just, grin and bear it these first 2 semesters and I'll take HGLO 100 or 101 and learn the data science, take GVPT 201, check off that gen ed requirement, and then you could be done with it and you could never touch R again, right? And I would be totally fine and we can still be friends. But I still think there's a huge global element to the program that if you're really interested in IR or international relations, this is still a really great place for you.
Dr. Kroger, I did see one question that someone reposted, so I'm glad they brought it further down so I could get
Okay, yeah.
Are the research projects more individual or group work?
This past year, they've been all individual, but I am completely open to group work if people wanted to do that. The individual program, I should say for the final project, for the individual weekly coding things, those are individual just because it's kind of like, here, make this graph or show me that you can, discern a relationship between these variables using this data. So it's not really something that would warrant a group working together because it's a pretty small thing. I should say like the vast majority of students in HGLO 101 get A's. And I like it that way because I want that class to be a fun, albeit very reading intensive class for their first semester of college. I want them to love that class and to love being with each other and to love talking in lecture. Sometimes they're very chatty in lecture, as they can attest to. But I didn't mind that class at all. There are no exams in this class. There's nothing, no pop quizzes, anything like that. It really is, let's all kind of steep in these books and talk about these really complex issues together and all together kind of learn this coding thing as we're going. And really, there are no hard feelings if at the end of that first year, you're like, I hate R and I want to burn all these coding books. That's totally fine. I get it, right? I can't convert everybody and that's fine. Yes, that was kind of a long-winded answer, but it's individual, but I'm open to group work if people wanted to do that for the final project. This one is a good one for the students. Is there a lot of cross-cohort interaction and how is community fostered in the program since it's only a 2-year program? If any of the student ambassadors wanted to take that one on.
And I just want to acknowledge that we have 4 of them on the call. So if before you all answer, Anisha and Andrew, then Carmela, then Lucas, if we can just wave, show your face, say hello, give a little intro, and then we can jump into getting you all's response.
Okay, I'll start. Hello, my name is Anish Singh. I'm a freshman, obviously, and I'm majoring in neuroscience, and I'm a proud member of the Global Communities program.
Hi, I'm Andrew, and I'm a computer science and astronomy double major. And I also really like this program, which is why I'm here.
Hi, I'm Carmela. I'm also a freshman, and I am a sociology major.
Hi, I'm Lucas. I am a freshman. I'm a government and politics and public policy major.
And how would you guys say, would you guys interact with the second year cohort pretty regularly or how does that work?
Me personally, yes, I do. Some of them are actually like really great mentors, especially to us because they come very helpful, especially with like other classes aside from global communities. Like they give us a lot of like advice for scheduling like future classes for next semester, stuff like that.
Okay, cool. Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Should we?
For me, I'm like a person who actually doesn't interact with the second year students as much as some other people, but I still really enjoy having them there. Like some of the second year students are definitely like role models to me, and they've been really helpful for like the adjustment and like telling you, oh yeah, you should look at this program but not this one. So yeah.
Very cool. Okay, so just getting back to that because we have a questions just keep coming. If applicants rate HGC highly, what's the factor that separates those admitted as to those not chosen? I would say we look for people who are open-minded, who have enthusiasm about data science and global affairs, because I don't want people to feel forced into doing this R thing, right? I want them to be, I'm okay, I love it actually, if students come in with no R experience, because that was me a few years ago. So I am fine if students are like, I have no idea why she keeps just talking about the letter R so much, but she's really into it and I want to see what's so great about it. That's a fine attitude to have. As long as you come with an open mind, we're good. And I think it's pretty important to have an interest in global affairs. I think a lot of our students do have that. And that's a kind of a nice shared value that a lot of students have. Somebody asked, is AI or ML often explored as an extension? So that's artificial intelligence, machine learning. We don't get to that by the end of Government and Politics 201. We will get into that somewhat in 208 if you're considering like text mining and like natural data language processing as machine learning, then yes, we do that. But I'm always open if somebody's like, hey, there's this new R package for machine learning, let's learn it together. I'm totally game for that. Could you provide more details on the classes for the second year? So with the Global Fellows, I think this is referring to the Global Fellows because they're asking about NIH. So the fall semester is actually really cool because Global Fellows brings in all these practitioners who work at state, who work at all these downtown agencies, NGOs as the instructor. So you have these people who are actually out in the real world doing these jobs, who are your instructor for that fall semester. And then you go to your internship potentially in the next semester. For 208, it's much more of like an advanced R learning kind of class, and then to kind of set you up to do your own research independently. Do we receive honors LLC preferences based on how soon we submit the form? I think earlier submission, I'm not an admissions expert here. I mean,
Jenny answered that in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay, cool. This is one for the students. Can you talk about Dorchester as a community and how it compares to other dorms?
So I think that Dorchester really is a community. I know that some people have really made like really good friends in the dorm, and not only but freshmen, but also sophomores and freshmen together. So I think that's really important versus a more of a regular dorm where it's much bigger, where there's where it's not much of a collective, but rather more individualist.
Anybody else want to weigh in?
Yeah, I can go off of Lucas. So like whenever people like friends from other dorms come over to Dorchester, they're just surprised to see like that there's like interfloor communication, because that's like not a concept in other dorms. So like it's actually really nice that like our entire dorm is actually connected. And like to put things into perspective, me, Andrew, and Lucas all live on the basement floor, and there's like there's a lot of people on the second floor, but like that does not stop us from like making friends and like making connections with people. And yeah, like I said, like other dorms usually like you only socialize with the people on your floor, but since we're like such a small dorm, that's like it's like very homey. It like actually allows for a lot more friendships.
I think also I think a lot of that comes from the fact that you take the same course like with the same group of people. Because it's a relatively small program. Also, I'd like to say that when I was looking like at the outside of this dorm before I got here, I didn't think it would be very nice. And I think there's probably there's like maybe one or two dorms that are maybe like physically competitive with Dorchester, but I think it's actually a pretty nice dorm. I think they renovated it or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yes, very recently.
Yeah.
That's why the kitchen's so swanky. Yeah. Okay, moving through, what would be the top reason a student should choose this program over others? It's hard to limit it to just one. I would say if you have no idea why data science is so cool, but you keep hearing about it and you want to learn more and kind of get your feet wet in a safe environment while learning about really cool, highly salient, very relevant global issues, this is the place for you. If you want to get your foot in the door super early to this internship track to work in an NGO or any kind of government agency, this is the place for you. Because I should have mentioned this earlier, with the Global Fellows, they have waived the credit hours required to apply only for Honors Global Community students. So if you get into this program, right, or if you're in this LLP and you want to do the Global Fellows track, they will let you apply starting your sophomore year. So they have waived the minimum credit requirement. So that allows you to, again, just get an even earlier start on that internship process. So I think that's a really valuable aspect of our program. This is the individual versus group work. If the student has done AP stats during high school, will she get credit, or do you have to take the HGC? I've not yet encountered a student in GVPT who has been able to get out of that class with their AP stat credit. I think we just go so far beyond what AP stats does in high school. Unless your class is really tricked out and you're doing logistic regression and that kind of stuff by the end of AP stats in high school, but normally AP stats in high school might get to like bivariate regression, but we just go so much further than that. And also, as the students alluded to, there is a real community building aspect to taking classes together. So these students, when they take 201, they are in lectures with other normally government politics students, but then their discussion sections are held in Dorchester with just their cohort. So they all know each other really well. What's the next one? Someone's asking about Andrew's aerospace. Oh no, well, he's astronomy. Maybe that was referring to, I don't know what this question is about the aerospace engineering, but I know those students are, I've talked to the Global Fellows program specifically about them, and they are very excited for them to apply because I think they have a lot of contacts with agencies that are relevant to aerospace, either in DC proper or on the other side of the river in Virginia. If you're not interested in international relations as a career, but the Living Learning program sounds exciting, would you still recommend it? Absolutely. I think that these books that we read in HGLO 101 are not just for people who like world politics. In fact, like How Democracies Die is largely about US politics. But even if you're not a government politics major, and I always have to remind myself that this is this awesome experience that I get to have, in that I get to interact with students from all different majors. And what that really challenged me as a professor is, okay, you're not just dealing with government and politics nerds anymore. You're dealing with students who might not love politics, who don't live and breathe what goes on the Hill every day. That's what I'm used to over in government politics. But when I'm with my HGLO students, I have to remember that some of them don't live and breathe this stuff all day. Like they think about engineering, or they think about sociology, or they think about journalism, right? And so it's such an amazing conversation to have with these students who some of this material is new for, right? When we talk about, I think for the whole class, including myself, talking about demography and all of the consequences that come with demography. Or when we read the book, The End of the World, which is a lot about geography and the consequences of geography, which I always thought was just like drawing maps. It is so much more than that. So I think it's a class that is just about big issues in general, not necessarily IR only. Of course, they're pretty international in nature, but I'm going to let the students kind of riff on this as well. Like, what do you guys think about, is it just for IR people, or what do you think?
I mean, I want to say that, first of all, I'm not even in IR or government politics. I'm in pre-med. And so you would think that like global communities is like the antithesis of like what I'm doing. But literally, some of the books we read, like we read about the public health crises, especially with COVID, and it was able really to connect with a lot of stuff that we were doing, especially also with new health innovations. So it's not like completely like we're just focusing on like the global world. Like it overlaps with a lot of majors, which I think is also really cool, in my opinion.
I think to add on to that, I feel like especially the books we read in the first semester, I feel like they didn't just make me like a better sociology major, or they didn't just like prepare me for a career in international relations. I feel like they made me like a better citizen in general. And I think they really made me understand everything that's going on around me, which is so relevant in today's world. Like I feel when I have conversations at the dinner table with my parents, I can understand everything that's going on in a much deeper sense now.
Lucas, did you want to chime in or are you good?
Well, I don't know how much I can chime in because I am in government and politics and major and a public policy major, but I would say that major wise, the Horde is very diverse. So when it comes to majors, so yeah.
Okay. So somebody asked, in terms of skills that HGC students learn, is it more focused on hard skills like data science, soft skills like critical thinking, or both? My goal as director is for you to come out of this program being a better thinker. I don't care how you define that. That might be, I learned how to do this really cool thing in R and now I'm addicted to it and all I do is make graphs and do really cool data analysis. It could be, like Carmela was saying, I know how to think about world issues now in a different way. Like now I know like what the Bretton Woods system is and why that matters. Now I know why it's a really big deal that Japan's population is aging so quickly. Things that I never would have thought about before. Like I all of a sudden found myself interested in like the size of container ship, cargo containers. There's so many things that I learned in designing this class that just rocked my world to the core and just reading some of these books and just I could just put the book down and think, I never thought about it that way before. That's what I want students to get out of this. If you come out of it being a flag bearer for R, more power to you. And I love that. But I think more general, just critical thinking. How big is it? It's about 75 students per cohort, so 150 total. So one of the smaller ones, but we like it that way because everyone's really tight. Do we have to choose the track, global fellows or academic, on the preference form? No, you do not. You don't have to do that until second semester freshman year. So you don't have to pick right away. I see Natalie already answered that. Thank you. What does it look like in the third and fourth year? So a lot of honors LLP, or maybe not a lot, and I don't want to speak out of turn here. There are other LLPs that are also only 2 years. And so I think what most do is they get the 16 credits done in the LLP, and then in their third and fourth year, they're still welcome to come back to Dorchester, of course. They are always HGLO students for us. But then you're in your major and you're doing courses that you need to do to satisfy those requirements. We also really encourage students, there are honors programs within individual departments. And that looks different depending on what department you're in. So for in government politics, it normally means writing a big thesis with original research, things like that. It might look different in engineering, but in your third and fourth years, you're doing stuff that's relevant to your specific major. Like you said, you're always welcome to come back. You're always a part of our community. But that's why we make it short, so that we allow for a wide variety of majors to come in. Like if we had a program that had, much more demanding credit requirement or something like that, we might not be able to get this wide variety of majors. And so that's why we like to keep it just to 2. Can the students tell us why they chose to be a part of HGC over other LLPs?
Oh yeah, so I kind of already answered this in the chat, but for one, as a STEM major, I was hoping to also balance out my courses. So like take a mix of STEM courses, but also like kind of humanities related courses, kind of social data science related courses, because I feel like also it kind of shows your well-roundedness as a student, first of all, which I think is really cool. And other thing is that I feel like if I were in other honors programs that focused on like my major, I probably would not have been able to learn as much more. Because also like sometimes like humanities excites me as well. So like it's a fun way to also be able to partake in stuff like that as well. And it's a very like low low stress, and it's just fun. Like it's fun to do at the end of the day.
I'm CS and astronomy, but so it's not like that. I think the CS part is actually quite relevant to what you do, but I didn't necessarily know that at the time. I mostly just put it up there because that's a lot of what I did in high school, was things like debate and Model UN and that sort of thing.
I would say that I joined honors global communities because I think a big thing, right, that obviously the majors are diverse, but me being in government politics and public policy does have relevance. I would also say that the books they're really good. I know that demographics and learning, and those such things. I really enjoy that. So and R is also you also need R for other classes. So like for Stat 100 at the University of Maryland, you need R. So I think that it's definitely a class. It's definitely a LLP that definitely fit for me.
And we're happy to have you, Lucas. You are good.
I think for me, HGLO kind of felt like the perfect program that I couldn't find anywhere else, because coming in and applying to colleges, I knew that and I still think that I probably at some point want to work in an international organization, helping with projects around the world with human development. So finding this program kind of felt like a perfect match with what I wanted to do, especially since at so many points I heard, if you're doing sociology, you really need to get that data science. If you're doing sociology, you really need to get that statistics point of view. And it did, but again, I think, as Lucas said, it has been so much more than that. And like this class, like even convinced me, like I'm probably gonna do a demography minor because of this program now. So yeah, it's been really amazing.
Very cool. Thanks, guys. Somebody asked, is a nonprofit a possibility for an internship? Absolutely. They have, I mean, I cannot emphasize enough the extensiveness of their contact list. So if you really want to work in nonprofit clean water stuff, I bet they could find you something. They are amazing at their placements. And then we kind of already addressed that one, or we can come back to that, I guess. I'm just trying to, because the questions just keep coming here. Since Global Fellows is also available for students not in HGC, do HGC students get preference, or are they accepted at a higher rate? Here's the bottom line. If you're in Honors Global Communities and you apply to Global Fellows, you get in. In fact, they have waived all the application requirements. Like you don't even have to write an essay. You don't need any rec letters. You literally check a box and say, I'm an HGLO kid. And they're like, oh, okay, you're in. Right. So it's a very, very easy road. Would there be good internships for architecture majors? I would bet dollars to donuts. Yes, they are, like I said, extremely well connected. But feel free to go check out their website. And I should say the director, Joan Burton, loves hearing from students. She loves to talk about this program. It is her baby and she's amazing at her job. So if you wanted to email her and say that I sent you, feel free to email her. I'm sure she would love to answer questions. Okay. Oh, this is a good question. This is for Anish. Did you already answer this? Oh, yes. You were interested in being surrounded by other majors. ILS is also another phenomenal LLP. But I do think that this, like Anish said, gives you a chance to learn about non-life science stuff, to kind of broaden your background. Does combining credits for majors, minors, and the LLP credits become too much to manage? We have an army of advisors on campus that their sole job is to help you do that. So I don't think it becomes too much to manage. To what degree is there overlap in getting a balanced schedule? This program provides a lot of overlap in that we cover at least 2 gen ed requirements. So you're getting those out of the way pretty early. So I don't know. I've not heard from anyone that it provides or that it creates any kind of scheduling problem. It's just the first 2 years. You're knocking some gen eds off with the requirements. And in terms of like getting into discussion sections, we are holding discussion sections for you specifically. So you can always get into the ones that are reserved for HGLO. Will the books I mentioned in the presentation be read this fall too? Absolutely, right? I'm thinking of adding another one, but I might be doing that in the 208 class instead. Because the more I read about this, the more cool books I find. Just to give that away, that book is called Sapiens, and it is amazing. I feel so bad for the people who took it in the fall because we couldn't read Sapiens. It's so good. But yes, all those books will be the same again because they're all awesome. There wasn't really a dud among them. They were just fun. And then, thank you, Anish, for saying that. Yes, R is used everywhere at UMD. It is part, I'd say we're even on like the tail end of the wave now, but pretty much everybody has moved to either R or Python because they're free, open source. You might have some older professors who are using SPSS or Stata, but you have to pay for those. And the university is very committed to keeping costs down for students. And so a lot of faculty are moving to R because it is open source. How would this program be different? I'm going to assume from IBH. I don't know that someone from IBH could handle that a little bit. I mean, I know that they probably also have an interest in teaching data science skills, because that's a key element of any kind of business education. Like you'll have to have some kind of accounting, finance, any of that will require a data science background. But I can't really speak beyond that other than because I just know my program better. I'm looking at the Global Fellows program, and it seems to be located in DC. Are the seminars during the fall sophomore year done in DC? They're done at UMD, right? So the practitioners come from DC or wherever. They might choose to just stay here for a semester, right? They come to UMD and teach the classes in College Park. So it's just like another class that you would take. So that's where the fall seminar is held, just like any other class. So they really try to make it easy for you guys. Oh, and thank you. I see now Giovanni answered that. Thank you. Are the age school classes limited to HGC students? Yes. So if you're not in the program, you cannot take the age school classes. They are limited to people in the program. Yes, thank you again for Lucas giving the shout out that R is very prominent on campus. And there's Jenny answering the question about business school. And yeah, if you had an internship that's downtown, it is super duper easy to get downtown from College Park. We already have on the Green Line, we have a station, and we're also getting one on the Purple Line very soon. Average class size is about, for the lecture, I had all 75 students, first year 75 students with me, which was awesome. I've never had, and I have to say, I've taught a lot of big lectures. Normally I teach like around 150, maybe 200 students. So the 75 lecture for me was pretty small, but it was such a different vibe than any other class I taught before. You can really tell from day one that these students live together. They know each other. They are friends with one another. They all sit in the same place all the time. They all talk to the people. Like they all know each other. It is, like I never, when I teach the big stats class, I never had to say, okay, guys, you need to keep it down. Because the students there don't have that connection. They don't share that community with one another. And so they're not just sitting and like excitedly talking to each other about the readings or whatever it might be, right? But this class, the vibe is just totally different. It's a very positive vibe. It's really fun. And I enjoy so much seeing them grow as a community. So kind of as the person who's looking out on the lecture hall, I can see, oh, okay, how these friendships are developing. I can just sense them becoming closer as a group, even in a class of 75. But like Ms. Giovanni said, that's for the lecture. For the discussion sections, it's about 15 to 20 students in each discussion section, which is pretty typical of a discussion section across UMD. But we like to keep it nice and small too. Are there any other questions? That was a whirlwind.
I was gonna say, don't get quiet on us now. We still got a few more minutes if you have questions, specifically for the students. I know we didn't talk about
yes.
There's still a lot of things that we can talk about.
Where are the lectures held? We held the last one in Tawes Hall, which has these really fancy, they're called TERP classrooms, where bigger screens, the chairs can swivel in fun ways. We also teach a lot in the Edward St. John building, which is another new building on campus. That's another perk in being in honors, is that you get access to really cool classrooms. Oh yes, and not to make it last but certainly not least, that Dorchester has its own classroom, and that's where your discussion sections are held on Friday. So you can just roll out of bed, put some slippers on, and come downstairs. I don't know how many people actually, I see a lot of nodding here. I hope that students take advantage of that. I totally would do that myself. So I think that is a major perk. I mean, I always joke that I wish I could go back and be in an LLP in undergrad, because this did not exist when I was an undergrad, but they just seem to have so much fun just hanging out with each other and just being in this community with each other, that I'm jealous. I love that I get to be even like a tangential part of that community, but I think it's just so fun to watch them as a college, group of kids do it. I love it. Oh, I'm seeing here. Oh, we see a lot of Crocs. I've seen the Crocs. The Crocs come to lecture too. Slippers, PJs, definitely. Yeah, no, we have time for few more questions if anybody has anything, but yes, definitely follow us on Instagram. We're going to be posting a lot of stuff there in the coming weeks. Are there opportunities for commuters to connect with other HGC students? Absolutely. As a commuter student, you are totally welcome in Dorchester. You will have swipe access into the dorm. You can come to every single event. You can just, when you're on campus, swipe into Dorchester, have total access to the lounge area. So yes, I hope, it is my, deep hope that all the commuter students felt as included as possible, that they are just part of the gang, because they're just in the cohort like everybody else. So yeah, there's absolutely, and if you wanted to purchase a meal plan, you could just basically hang out in Dorchester during the day when you're on campus, eat with your, fellow HGLO classmates, and then commute home for the night. That's absolutely possible to do. I know at least one student, she would come to every lecture. I never knew she was a commuter until she told me, but because she just seemed to be just a part of the gang. So there was no difference I hope there wasn't a big difference in her experience. Yeah, and Lucas said our lounges are very nice. They are very nice. And we have a very nice TV as well. I don't know, so that got a lot of use during World Cup. People were watching that a lot. And we also did a lot, I just really love the vibe of the student-led events, like the student potluck, where everybody brings in a dish from their family background or culture. We did the pancake breakfast at the end of the semester on reading day. It's just a fun bunch.
Yeah, I was going to mention the reading day thing because I think Dr. Kroko is actually making the pancakes for us, and it was reading day. So if any of you guys don't know what that is, that's the day before final exams. So it was just it was really fun, just having that little social moment and kind of free breakfast we kind of made for you. So it was a really fun event, in my opinion.
That's fun. So if you guys had any advice to give to students, not just about HGLO, but about this whole process in general, what would you say?
I'd say definitely join. It's a lot of fun. The classes are great. I actually at first I honestly was kind of scared of R, but then it really grew on me and I'm using it for other classes. I think that Dorchester is really it's a community, and the floors interact. It really is a great program, and I would definitely recommend it.
I want to say regarding, this is 30 minutes ago, but someone was talking about people who already know how to code. And I'll say as a CS major that I think it's a very different, unless you are very used to R specifically and doing it for these applications, I think it's a very different kind of programming. And I think it can make you a better CS major too, if you're or computer engineering or something like that too. And I also think that even if you're not a CS major, then it's still very useful. Yeah, it's still very useful to have these kinds of skills because, basically every job nowadays, you kind of, it's so beneficial to have these kinds of data analysis and programming skills.
Thank you so much. I want to close out by saying, feel free to reach out to hgc@umd.edu, or if you have questions about the specific classes, if you want to reach out to me personally, I'm happy to field email or any, whoop, there we go. I'll just put my email in there. There we go. Yeah, so thank you all so much for coming. This was really fun. Thank you to our student ambassadors. You guys are awesome. And yeah.
Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact